Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Confidence Through Cabaret. I'm Heather,
And I'm Ryan.
and we are so excited to be here with you today on Confidence Through Coffee Wednesday. I've got my
Yes.
mug. Ryan, have you got? Oh, I've spilled some of
Mine,
my.
I do have mine. It's a different mug to usual.
Oh, I've got like a mocha today. What have you got?
I've just got okay, I've got coffee with cream because it's
Okay.
still Christmas as far as I'm concerned.
I, okay. Well, fair enough. Fair enough. So today we filmed our interview with Julia Rugo,
Yeah.
and we were so honored to have her share with us a breathing activity that was just so grounding.
Mm.
Julia took us through the chakras. And what we wanted to discuss was a portion of the podcast which was about how breathing and yoga really relates, and the chakra alignment, how that really relates to confidence.
Mm.
I found that really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it really was.
Yeah. Shall we play a little clip of the video?
I, even myself, recently have been looking at how I've been feeling about my own confidence and where I feel most confident and how I feel most confident. And in essence, when and where I don't feel most confident. And I really realized that it all is perspective. Like it really comes from within me. Like whether I am worried about what someone else is saying or doing, or if I'm happy and feeling sure of myself and willing to like smile with the lessons that come with it, right? Like I really noticed this when I was starting to teach yoga. I was brand new to it, so I'd make mistakes, or I felt like I was making mistakes, but I was enjoying it so much that I just smiled and was like, okay, cool. Like, whatever. Like, let's just do this because this is fun. And life is meant to be fun. Just like when you're performing or when you're even at a meeting or something, like when you're just living, you got to find your ability to smile at the mistakes and feel good about yourself while you're doing it.
Okay,
Okay.
so I love Julia's words there. I love when she's talking about, how confidence feels.
Mm.
And what really especially resonated for me there was about the reflection that she had gone through about where does she feel confident and how does she feel confident, and where doesn't she feel confident and how doesn't she feel confident. And I think that's such a wonderful thing to be able to connect the mind and body, and we
Yeah.
talk a lot about that, the mind and body, and finding our place of strength and where you do feel confident, and then finding out what else you need to do for your work where you don't feel confident. What how did that sit for you? Did you have reflections from your own place of where you feel confident, Ryan?
It's really interesting. I think we touched on this a little bit in the actual discussion. There was a point at which during the first part of lockdown, you gave me a meditation, and I was really struggling to get everything out. I was really feeling kind of like, oh God, because you know what that's like. You get sometimes feelings can kind of feel like a haystack and of knitted things that just sort of sit on top of you, and you can't quite get the breathing space. And I was really struggling to kind of get that out. And then you sent me this amazing meditation, and I remember getting down to like the root chakra and just crying, just
Yeah.
fully floods of tears, just fully floods of tears. And it was that thing of like my body was saying, "I've been storing this. Please let me put it down, please." And the
Yeah.
realization was insane. It was really intense. What about yourself? Did that kind of resonate with you?
It very much does, because I have a yoga practice,
Mm.
and I have a stretch practice. And when I adopted that and started practicing, I found that it was very emotional to be in a stretch class, um, and and that is because we breathe into that area of our body where we need to send oxygen to, and releasing what comes with it when we release the breath is just so cathartic, because it's emotional to let go of those things, but it's also creating space in our body. And if you've ever done stretch, and if you haven't ever done stretch, I deeply encourage you to. especially if you think you're not flexible. But if you haven't, if you've been through stretch classes, you'll know that all of a sudden a part of your body will open up and you go a little deeper into that stretch.
Yeah.
And that's that breathing and then releasing, and that
Mhm.
opens us. And I love that feeling. I think it's just so, and it's an important energy lesson to us about, how we can have happiness and we can have alignment and we can feel confidence when we make that space in our body.
Mhm.
And I think for me, I kept for so long. I did what Julia is talking about with smiling with the lessons and smiling with the
Right.
mistakes, and I fully do agree with her there. And I strongly recommend you go and check out the whole podcast,
Mm.
just to hear her take on the smiling with the lessons and mistakes. But I think for me, it was a lot about I was really good at smiling, but I wasn't really good at the mistakes. So I was just this like smiling assassin, but inside in this anguish, and that's because I wasn't breathing and I wasn't making space in my body. I
Yeah.
was just doing the smiling, and I could do that forever. In fact, I did that for decades.
Mm.
Um, but when you combine the two, when you really focus on the breathing, and Julia takes us through this beautiful exercise of breathing all the way down the pelvis into the root chakra, all the way to the base of the spine. It was just wonderful. And if you just go and listen to the podcast, the link is below. But if you can do that with your body and make that space and release the energy that doesn't serve you, and then smile with your mistakes, that's the way to do it. I
Right.
only did half of it. It doesn't work so well.
You only released half of it.
Yes. Well, yeah, because I'm still storing all this stuff up, and
Yeah.
then I'm smiling,
Right.
and it doesn't, it stops your alignment. So when you
Hmm.
release all of that and then you align in your body, then you can start to feel confidence, which is what Julia is showing us in her podcast.
And do you think it's a gradual thing?
What the
The
learning
actual
and
relief
practice?
thing, yeah, because like I think it can be a little bit frustrating at times when sometimes when you first take up a practice, as much as we know that we're not going to be perfect and do it exactly right, however you can do an exactly right with a meditative practice, because that's, it's all about how you feel and moving at your own pace. But there can be a frustration. I'm not getting it right. Is it like, do you think it's a slow, is it a slowly kind of thing?
I think it depends on who you are.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm not a very patient person by nature. I don't know if you've ever noticed that. Don't answer. So I like everything now. And
Right.
that's one of the ways that my imposter syndrome shows up, because I like to be able to get it like that.
Right.
And so again, that breathing and that alignment is so important for us. And you have
Mhm.
to be patient with that.
Yeah.
I think some people pick that up quicker and easier than others. And part of that's probably, I'm not a yoga expert, but probably some of that's about how much you've got stored and how
Mhm.
tightly packed in it is. Some of that is about, your reason and purpose for doing it, and how, it's individual how much we let go of. I'm very good at letting go through stretch.
Right.
I'm not so good at letting go through breathing.
Right.
Do you know, like my breath wanted to stop, and Julia will take us through. If you go and listen to the podcast, Julia takes us through this amazing breathing exercise, and my breathing would go in beautifully until it got to about my navel, and then it would just wouldn't go any further. And
Right.
then she talks about that moving the pelvis, and that really helped me. So,
Right.
if you want to get the full breathing experience, go listen to that podcast. But I found that once I got that motion within the pelvis, I was able to get that breathing down further into the root chakra, and
I
that's
felt
really
the
helpful.
same.
I was just going to say, how did you experience breathing? What was that like for you?
It was, and I will reiterate, please go and check out the new podcast. The link's below. Go check out that podcast because it's really interesting. I don't know if you can see it. I should probably go back and look at the video and see if you can see the moment where I kind of like, because although I was working the camera as well, at the same point, there was a point where I was like, oh, like there was a movement, like it was a whole, like there was a whole movement. And I wasn't aware that it was going to happen. It's almost like a little like a series of bubbles almost. It's kind of one bubbles up and then, you know.
Nice.
It was very nice.
Nice.
It's very much
Yeah.
appreciated.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think those things, they're called practices because they are things that you need to keep doing. They're not the kind of thing where you do it a few times and go, well, nothing happened. That didn't
Exactly.
work. I have done that so many times. I
Right.
did meditation for like a month and I was like, okay, well, I'm still not shutting off the voice. So I quit. And I've had to go back quite a lot of times
Hmm.
before I've been able to find my practice that works well for me. And I actually have quite a few different ways that I can approach it depending on what I need. But that took a long time to get that. And it's the same with stretch. My stretch practice is fairly advanced,
Right.
and that took a long time, like a
Right. Right.
lot of time. You know, like I would say consistency for 4 years.
Yeah. And
To
consistency is the
really
big
get
thing
there.
with that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
That's why it's a practice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doing it and keep doing it. And then I love what Julia says in the podcast about just smiling with the lessons, because life is meant to be fun and life is meant to be, you're meant to cry and you're meant to laugh and you're meant to,
Yeah.
and I love that because
Right.
she, we always say this in Confidence Through Cabaret, don't we?
Hmm.
But you know what
Absolutely.
I'm going to say.
Absolutely. There is a value of joy and a value of
And
play, rather, excuse me.
value of play, and perfectly imperfect is a
Mhm.
wonderful place to be. So smiling with our lessons, enjoying it and going, oh, I get that, I see that now. And I know several of our guests in our on our website, with the master classes, have mentioned this as well.
Yeah.
That kind of, Laura Johnson, who does a fantastic masterclass for us, talks about all the things that she's done, of she, and how she finds humor in that, of leaving her children in the wrong place and so on.
Sure.
Not
Sure.
in any vulnerable place, but you know what I mean, that
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of thing. And it's like, oh, I can't believe I just did that. um I did that today, didn't I? Wandering around my house trying to find my glasses, and they
It
were
was
right
a whole
beside me the whole
adventure we
time.
went on. It was a whole adventure.
It, so I think being able to laugh at ourselves is a really key thing, and
Yeah.
I haven't always been able to laugh at myself. I think um, I've been able to appear that I'm laughing at myself,
Right.
but now with that release and that finding that space, I can laugh at myself. Sometimes I
Yeah.
don't want to, but I
Sure.
can. But I can
But
a
then
lot of the time,
that's
which is
an
what makes
honest
it fun.
reaction.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But I think, Julia talks to us in this podcast about, that life is meant to be fun. She mentions it a few times because it
Mm.
is so important.
Mm.
And, and that real truism about, if you don't have time to meditate, or if you don't have time for yoga, that's where you should actually be doing more, because you
Yeah.
need it probably more than anybody else.
Yeah.
And I think, that's a really good thing for us to bear in mind, of just kind of keeping time for ourselves. And we do discuss that on the podcast, actually, don't we?
Yes. Yeah, we
Because I
do.
know you asked. Yeah. So just making time for ourselves, and that's something that I have been guilty of most of my adult life, is making time
Hmm.
for everybody and everything else,
Exactly.
even complete strangers, more than for me.
Yeah.
um because there's that inability to say no, because there feels like there felt like there's consequences to saying no, and not exercising my own boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a whole other thing.
It's
We'll
a
do that
whole,
another.
but we'll be doing that again.
We will. We definitely will. So we have our podcast. Go and check out our podcast. The link is below. That's Julia Rugo, talking to us about alignment of chakras, about breathing,
Yeah.
and about yoga practice, and just tackling mindset from that point of view. We've
Yeah.
also got on our website, which is www.confidencethroughcabaret.com. Then we have master classes on there that are
Yeah.
just so helpful, and we've got River Starlight talking about breathing in similar way, but quite different and more sensual breath.
Yes.
With Laura talking about finding humor in the lessons, and being human.
Yeah.
We've got I mean, those are just a couple of examples, but we've got
We've got
lots of people
Meili as
really.
well, talking about teamwork and the secrets of teamwork and collaboration. It's there is, you're right, there is so much interesting content that's up on the site now, at
Yeah, and we do it every
confidencethroughcabaret.com.
week. It's so exciting. Yes, confidencethroughcabaret.com.
Mm.
Also, we have our community, which is Confidence Through Cabaret on Facebook.
Yep.
And that community is where we do free challenges. We put up lots of free content,
Yep.
and you can meet lots of other people who are going through this journey. And I think for me, one of the things that I did wrong, and I do mean wrong, because
Yeah.
I don't I'm not, sometimes mistakes are the right thing to do to learn, but
Because, yeah.
but I actually did this wrong for me,
Mm.
is that I didn't let anybody in, and I did these things by myself,
Yeah.
and it was long and it was painful and it was full of lots of mistakes, and I could have made it so much easier just by accepting help and
Right.
finding support, and just really embracing that, and I just didn't.
Yeah.
And that's why we create Confidence Through Cabaret community on Facebook.
Yeah. So that we can
You
all
know,
learn, you know?
yeah, yeah, and we can all share that
Yeah.
perfectly imperfect time together, and
Yeah.
so that's where we have challenges. So do subscribe if you haven't already
Yes.
subscribed to our YouTube channel. Do like this video, please, and then go and check out the Julia's podcast, which is on the link below. And we'll see you very soon.
See you very
So
soon.
I'm Heather,
And I'm Ryan.
and we are Confidence Through Cabaret, and we are reminding you that it's
Your body, your world, your stage.
your stage. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Like and subscribe. Thank you, everyone.